By the end of 2023, Americans will have exhausted their savings, predicts the U.S. Federal Reserve. Yes, the people of the richest and most significant nation on earth will be living paycheck to paycheck and without savings. Watch this. The Federal Reserve's primary responsibility is to keep track of how much money Americans have saved. The average amount saved matters a great deal since it dictates how the economy will function. Americans will be better off in terms of spending, home purchases, and car purchases if they have more money saved. The Federal Reserve is alerting the public and the government for the first time in history that, on average, Americans won't have any savings left by the end of 2023. You may already be aware of how bad the economy is if you reside in the country or have family members who work there. Most Americans are on a month-to-month income. Everything has become incredibly expensive, yet earnings have not increased. Due to the financial gap this has caused, Americans are now compelled to use savings in order to get by. However, these savings are about to run out, which will have disastrous economic implications on the global economy as well as the U.S. economy. In this video, I'll discuss why savings are running low and will project how the economy will be affected by this unfavorable news. We must first comprehend what has happened to Americans' money in order to begin this documentary. Every government in the world moved into alert mode when the pandemic hit, hoping to save their respective economies. More money was printed than ever before in an attempt to avert a social and economic collapse. The printed money flowed straight into the hands of both residents and companies. The largest forms of stimulus provided to the populace in the United States were stimulus payments and assistance for the unemployed. As you can guess, millions of individuals lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic, particularly those in the hospitality, dining, entertainment, and other industries. These folks were provided with extremely substantial unemployment benefits by the government, often to the point that it was more convenient for them to stay at home, collect their stimulus and unemployment benefits, and not work during the pandemic. The government's imposition of laws supporting those required to pay rent was another factor that also aided these individuals. Put another way, the people received a large amount of money that the government had printed. Thus, a significant amount of savings was the final outcome of all of this. Here in this chart you will see the percentage of income that Americans saved. As you will see, these were record numbers never seen before, where the population was able to save between 15 to 35% of their income during the year 2020 until the end of 2021. If we were to quantify all this savings, during the pandemic alone Americans saved in excess of $2.1 trillion, nearly twice the size of Mexico's economy. In other words, Americans have never been wealthier. Now, the government stimulus is not the only reason for these historic savings. People were compelled by the pandemic to stay at home, forego going out to eat and amusement, and save money on petrol by not driving. As you can guess, these are huge costs for anyone to have, and you can save a good deal of money if you don't have them. Anyway, people began spending those savings like never before after the outbreak ended and things returned to a semblance of normalcy. Individuals began to travel, dine out, shop, purchase vehicles, and even purchase homes. Because of the intense demand, the cost of everything shot through the roof. Of course, there are a lot of other factors that contributed to the increase in prices. To give you an idea, here I want to show you how supermarket prices went up. Here you will see everything from fruits, vegetables, meat, and all kinds of food. As you will see, the price of absolutely everything shot up 20% from 2021 until now. Now let's look at the prices of household expenses. Here you will see the price of electricity, natural gas, appliances, and other utilities. As you will see, the price of all of these also shot up with 20% from 2021. Now let's talk about vehicles. For starters, here you're going to see the price of gasoline. The price of gasoline is reaching record highs. Before the pandemic, a gallon cost $2, while today it's at $4. But now let's look at vehicle prices. An average vehicle before the pandemic cost about $33,000. Today they are costing about $46,000. Not to mention the price of homes to buy. The price of homes has skyrocketed so much, as you'll see here, that the average home is soon going to cost $500,000 nationwide. As you can see, everything has become much more expensive. And the real deal is this. While prices have soared for everything, earnings have remained constant. What's more, wages have barely gone up in this last decade, while everything has skyrocketed. Because of this, if earnings stay the same while the cost of everything has increased dramatically, people will have a financial gap that needs to be filled. If you are enjoying this video and want to be aware of new videos, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Living month to month will make you aware of how unsustainable and stressful this scenario is. At that point, Americans had little choice but to use their savings to get by. And of course, during the pandemic, as I showed you, savings rose to record levels. Indeed, Americans were able to plug this financial gap, but their savings are now on the verge of depletion. Here in this chart you will see again how much money Americans saved. As I told you, during the pandemic an excess of $2.1 trillion was saved. But as the price of everything went up, little by little those savings started to deteriorate, and as you'll see here in red, from the year 2022 until now they're already running out. And that leads us to the study conducted by the Federal Reserve. According to the Federal Reserve, Americans will run out of savings by the end of 2023. Living in the United States means that you are aware of this. It's possible that you've depleted your funds and are now paying your bills with credit cards. I'll get to my next point now. The debt load on Americans is higher than it has ever been. To give you an idea, for the first time in history credit card debt has just surpassed $1 trillion. That's right, here's how much money Americans owe on their credit cards. This has skyrocketed in recent years and has surpassed $1 trillion. And as you may know, credit card interest rates are between 20 to 30% per year. That's the truth of what's happening in America, which explains why the economy hasn't crashed in spite of all the bad news. I mean, Americans are starting to incur debt because they have been depleting their savings to cover their bills. Now, those savings will run out. The current state of affairs is completely unsustainable and will have disastrous effects on the economy. This gets me to my final point, how the economy will be impacted by all of this. Consumption is, as you might expect, the lifeblood of any economy. The people who shop at supermarkets, dine out, purchase appliances, and use services are the ones who maintain employment and economic growth in the country. And in spite of growing costs, that engine has persisted for the time being. To put it another way, consumption has been possible with little difficulty up until now, but things will start to change toward the end of 2023. This Christmas might be the final one that truly involves gifts, and it might also be the final Black Friday that we witness. With less money to spend as we approach 2024, the US economy will contract sharply, which will have an impact on the global economy. Companies will cease employing new employees as the first thing that will happen. However, when things go worse, businesses will not be generating the same amount of money as they did, therefore they will have to fire workers. This is going to make things worse. When Americans are in debt, have no savings, and cannot afford to buy more than necessities, a true economic crisis will occur. This will be awful, and I would guess we'll see it around the spring of 2024. However, inequality, the second odd detail, enters the picture at this point. As it happens, the ordinary American will not have any savings. Nevertheless, the wealthiest 20% of the population still has considerable savings, as reported in a Bloomberg article. Although these individuals will be able to live, this is bad news for the majority of Americans. As I mentioned to you earlier, you may already be living month to month, and you may have already used up all your savings. I would like you to tell us your story and how you are living. Do you think the situation could get worse in the next year? Leave us your comments.